Thank you, Tyler. I'm glad you're trained on how to do that. Hey, Bubba. Like your outfit this morning, man. Good to see you, sir. Telling you, he told me about that yesterday. I've seen a YouTube video that somebody doing that one time. That is no fun. Hey, what y'all doing? Y'all want to wrestle? You lost. Did you pull somebody over and then just like sneak in there? Man, good to see y'all. That's all y'all skin goes doing that.
Doing pretty good.
Y'all over fishing? Yeah. Yesterday would have been a second fish. I don't know if it was the guy. It's just a getaway.
Look at you, how much you grown.
Normally you can have a week or something.
You haven't tired yet, right? Still training? You still have to fill them hours too? Is that to teach others or to keep my feeling already be certified? You doing that to show others? That'd be cool. Well, he's welcome. Yes, ma'am. And they got the real stuff coming, so you don't have to do that.
Yep, you're in that class over there. I'm gonna go take this to her.
They're brethren from over the Lake City area. Swanee County. My nemesis, Swanee County. So thankful we don't play y'all at the high school level. Yeah. Back in the day, I think they got to spicy, so they shut down. Always. Cross City, that's tomato too. Salty.
You guys can tell Brooke what happened to Mr. Jones.
I got the guy from that the juice was good, but that cracker, I promise you, was sour. It tasted like that. And he gave me this one. I don't like the juice of this one quite as much, but it's actually a cracker. So we do it once. And it actually had that same, if you didn't get your thumb just right, then it's already a shot. These are really easy. I don't remember how many of my wife so far it's been easier to do. Well, and I heard a couple of guys said, like, just to make sure my little free do it, just so you get up there, you're not like fiddling with that thing. The times that we live in, man, stuff that we thought we would never deal with church. Good enough to. That's like work with. You're not coming more happy to go, are you? Okay. And if that is covered in full. Today? Oh, man. I have a full salary. I would like to leave.
What's it like right now?
You got it? I told him I kind of like one to open, then we do prayers for reading, and then we do board supper one. And then it's the one before the sermon and one after. You can do 5, it's up to you, but kind of 4 is kind of what, at bare minimum is 4. Just right now, let's just look at well, no reason to do it. You know, just yeah, but I think that makes sense.
That first appearance is really good. Not too long. Wow. Hopefully. So when that happens, do you even have to go in? The logging. Have you ever done first appearance from your house?
Yeah.
I mean, now that it's
when I first got out of surgery, I did it for like 6 weeks.
just kind of put on your robe, you kind of put it in a good area, or do you even have to do your robe?
I don't have, I'm pretty poor. No, I can do something else, I just turn the camera. Show up how
Thank you.
I'm gonna go out and get some posters.
What law enforcement do you recognize law enforcement? That's just much for sheriff have to go over.
Yeah, did you already know me? Yeah. Right. We were just talking about repelling out of helicopters and all that stuff.
I was at Fort Bull.
Yeah.
Mine was a small camp down in the.
Yes. Come on. Welcome. I'm Dan.
I did
We just saw them the week before Christmas. I'm like, they know where we're at.
Y'all do the already pre-made ones, or y'all do the?
He got mine sprayed. He called me.
Keep everything safe over there? Yourself, I don't need that. Don't put that back.
You gotta have home probably.
He did. Yes. Dollars. Girls did really well. Boys had a rough time. We had a great I saw your wife in the background of the picture. She did a good job. Yes. I saw your pretty face in the background. I did. I think it was girls did all.
Her mom? She is not. She's her, I mean, for her generation, she was a brother.
She has so much on her, and every time I text her, she doesn't reply.
She women way younger than her. I'm good with it. Okay. Okay. I see family resemblance.
No, I said y'all are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I tell you what, they were a great fit for each other. They really were.
You actually,
At least got changed.
I'm sorry. Oh, okay. I didn't know.
True. Kind of like the Indiana Jones one, like, you know, where the guy gets out a sword and does all that.
I don't
just,
remember it.
I ain't got time for this. And it's like the next movie after that, he tries and the gun doesn't, he just throws it and runs.
Oh. What? Good morning.
Stick my leg out and trip you. I'm good at that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Now we'll pull that up.
She's not praying or prophesying.
I have
You know,
to
you
say
could
something
also
funny.
use it to wrap around his neck and then like
I say something funny about her clothes every morning.
tie a knot in it. And, yes. I mean, we encourage that around here.
Sometimes when she drives, I ask her, you know, Indian food or Chinese food or Mexican food or something.
I like your outfit, Lori. You're welcome. I got you. Did she try on 15 pairs of shoes and couldn't figure out which one that she wanted to wear? Is that what it was?
The clock went off and he didn't get it.
Man, y'all ever wonder in the garden how Adam and Eve kind of turned on each other? That is a small glimpse of how that works. The woman you gave me, and y'all see how that works. It's just as fresh. Has mankind changed? You see how it is. Huh? The man is patient. Wow. You're going to get shot at by 2 or 3 ladies this morning. To our visitors, welcome. Glad to have y'all with us. If y'all haven't met the Musgrove family, they're good friends, and I've got to worship with them over there in their neck of the woods. You're the only positive thoughts I have when I drive through Suwannee County, because every other thought, if I get anywhere near that stinking stadium over there, I want to go to. It makes a preacher want to cuss. So I just think about y'all, and I have good thoughts when I drive through Suwannee County. So good to have y'all always, 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 and hug your family for us when you get back to them. Just kind of some somber news. If you hadn't already heard, Brian and Kit Bethay lost a grandson yesterday afternoon to a car accident. Waylon Barber is his name. That would be Brandy's youngin', 15 years old. Just I changed my sermon this morning as a result of it. I literally wrote a sermon this morning. What I had prepared didn't make sense. So we'll just talk about that later. But I know that if you would be mindful of the Bethay family and the Barber family, they would much appreciate it. In fact, Lori's got some cards up here that if you get a chance to in between worship and Bible class, or even after worship, and maybe just to start with, let's just sign names, and then the days and weeks to come, maybe we'll follow up in different ways. But one's going to go to Brian and Kit, and then one's going to go to the Barber family, I believe.
The death of a child can be different. And we're asking that you just sign your name, don't add any comments, because I've had a friend before that lost a child. And
we just don't want to risk an insensitive comment.
Every well-intentioned comment she received upset her.
Yeah.
And so it may be less is more
That's
now.
right. So we're just for now, we'll sign names, and it'll be the spirit of sin in it is what we'll start with. So if you get a chance in between worship, we're going to leave them up here in between worship and Bible class, or after worship. We're going to try to, in some small way, send that to them. I do have some good news for you. I wish I could show you a picture. First of all, what is Mr. Ronnie's last name? Morris. I want to call him Carter because I know the Carter girls, and that's their grandpa, but he got to come home. I ran into Miss Shiver, and she told him, so he's able to go home. He's with a walker and kind of a cane, whatever. And my buddy Rod got to come home this past weekend. He's got a wheelchair. He can walk with a walker, whatever, but just to get to be home, I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to. So that's 2 overwhelming positives that God has allowed them to be able to do that. Little Caroline is also home. They're adjusting to shot routine. She did get a positive follow-up, whatever, but still kind of a long way out of the woods. But on those 3 fronts that we've been praying about, it's a lot of good news. And so I'm thankful for that to counter kind of the news that was received yesterday. So lots of God answers prayers, and pray that God keeps doing that. And that's kind of all we can say about that. The Slaughter family is not here today. They just said kind of just some symptoms, not sure if it is or isn't, but just out of abundance of caution and keeping all of us comfortable and safe. That's why they're not with us this morning. So appreciate that, but also want to be mindful of them as well. Any other things we need to make mention of before we get rolling with our Bible class this morning? Let me go Miss Margie first.
Patrick Wilson, our friend.
That stays on the property, yes.
He's been in the hospital for over a month, and they brought him home Wednesday and came back around on Friday. And he's in Tallahassee Hospital this time, but he's not doing well at all. He's all prayers.
10-4. Patrick Wilson is that name? 10-4. Miss Barbara, what you got?
My aunt just said possibly COVID.
Oh, okay. Well, pray, and if it is, it can be super minor. And If there's any good news, it seems like this last round, for the lot of part, has been not quite as severe on folks. Not that it doesn't still, because a couple of our soccer girls' mom got it, and it's kind of kicking her tail. So, but praying if it is, then it can be minor, for sure. Anything else we want to make mention of before we get rolling this morning? Any other praises you want to share? Good things that you want to share? One I'll share is that Joel and I were having a dumbbell lifting contest. And I was prevailing, and he just couldn't let me beat him because he just couldn't accept the fact that I was stronger than him. And so he went to trying to pick up one that was probably too heavy and has what do you call that? A separated bicep, a dislocated, a torn bicep. I mean, so I hope that he learned, a lesson in pride and humility, and that I am more of a beast of a man than he expected. So I just want to be mindful of him this morning. I'm really brave from 20 feet away with the exit strategy, right? No, but in all seriousness, we pray. Has that got to be surgically fixed? So want to be mindful of him that we can get that taken care of. Yeah, I did challenge him to a fight this morning, and he said, "I have lawful cause to just shoot you. I'm not tussling with you this morning." So yeah, well. I was going to say I've seen him shoot, and that doesn't give me any comfort whatsoever. No, but we'll be mindful of you, Bubba. Hopefully that can get taken care of. Mark, we got a pile of things. I hate to throw this opening prayer on anybody this morning, and you're just my favorite choice. So if you wouldn't mind to open us with a word of prayer this morning.
That's all about. Lord, we thank you for this day that you've given us. Lord, we thank you for all the many lessons that you give us each and every day. Lord, we also come to you this morning with heavy hearts. We have families that are mourning the loss of a loved one. I ask that you be with Ryan, Kid, Justin, Randy, as they go through this time. Be with them and comfort them only as you can. Lord, we also come to you this morning as we gather together here to worship you. It's our goal and desire to worship you in a manner that's well pleasing to you. Lord, as we open up your word and study your word this morning, we ask that you just be with each and every one, be with every family that's represented here. Open up our hearts, allow us to take in what the teachers have prepared, and we can apply it to our lives. Lord, be with us as we go on throughout this hour of study and into the worship hour. Pray all these things in Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen. So we are studying the genealogy of Jesus in Matthew 1. You can open to 2 Chronicles 25. You're like, genealogy of Jesus in Matthew 1. Why are we in 2 Chronicles? Because we're going through those names of the people that are listed of getting Jesus's bloodline to us. Have we had highs and lows? The names mentioned are baffling. Names like Tamar, that story's in there. Bathsheba's name is in there. Some of the kings that we've dealt with, highs and lows. Some do right in the sight of the Lord, and some don't do right in the sight of the Lord, and some do both in the same story. Did we have that a little bit with Joash? That's who we just finished in chapter 24. How do we start with a high with Joash? That's right. And he makes some reforms. He does some building. He cleans up the temple, expands and repairs, does a lot of great things. It says he does right in the sight of the Lord as long as the days of Jehoiada, as he was alive. And then after his mentor passes, Joash takes a little bit of a left turn, does he not? Ends up to the point of even killing who? You remember what significant character he kills that's connected? His prized and precious mentor's son. And why does he kill the son? Zechariah is the boy's name, and he spoke by God. Why are we doing this? Why are you doing this? And even kills him. So, and also significant fact, where does Joash get buried? Or not get buried, maybe a better question. He's in the city, but not in the tombs of the kings. And interestingly, the high priest Jehoiada, who is not a king, where does he get buried? In the tomb of the kings, because the people recognized the man that he was and how he led them. With all of that just kind of leads us to Amaziah, and I don't know if we'll get to Uzziah, but I kind of have both of them prepared for class, so 25 and into 26. As you look at 2 Chronicles 25, Amaziah, how old is he when he becomes king? 25, just kind of putting that into perspective, right? Maybe that explains some of the erratic highs and lows, right? Wisdom and lack of wisdom. 25, how long does he reign? 29 years. And interestingly, I'm curious to see how your versions read in verse 2. You have anything interesting about how that's worded there? Brett, how does yours read there in verse 2? All right, not with a loyal heart. Anybody have anything differently than not with a loyal heart? Not with a perfect heart. And what else? Not wholeheartedly is same with the verb. So he does what's right, but either heart not in or not all the way, or kind of a mixed bag. And we're going to see that. After the kingdom is firmly in his control, does that that's verse 3.
I think that's still like doing something just please people.
Possibly. Well, or it's just, if I'm going to bring it home to me, if I was going to apply it to my life, I can see myself in, I'm going to come to church, but I'm not, my mind's not totally, I'm here, but I'm not plugged in with that. Or, I'm living for God, but there's seasons where I'm a little more on fire than others. So he's doing right, but just not all the way. Can you relate to that? Well, I know there's a lot of perfect people sitting here. You guys are like just, rock stars of consistency, but I'm just, me up here because I'm on the screen here and I don't want a bolt of lightning to come down. I know that I'm not as consistent as that. So we get it. He starts out of the gate well. But there's just something about the wording in the beginning of verse 3 that reminds me of Joash, that reminds me of who's going to come after. My version says in verse 3, after the kingdom was firmly in his control. What does that kind of hint at? And then you can read the rest of it. He executes the officials who had murdered his father, the king. So what happened at the end of Joash's life? Joash kills Zechariah, which is the high priest's son, his mentor's son, because he prophesied against him. After Joash loses in battle, some of the officials who are left go get Joash and kill him because they recognize what you did to Zechariah, the son of Jehoiada, who was favored by everybody, was not right. And so they're the ones that kill Joash. Well, now that the kingdom is firmly in Amaziah's control, once he was sure he was in power, what does he do to the officials who killed his dad? He kills all them. But it's just the way that's worded, after it's firmly in his control, I'm hung up on that of, I waited till I had some power, right?
You got people behind you.
Because if you come in as the new guy at 25 years old and you start messing around too soon, exactly. So he waits till he feels comfortable, where he feels like he's got some power and control, and then he starts doing. And that is a theme of these kings that when they were, it'd be times where even the text is telling us that God was blessing them, and that's why they have success. And a lot of times once they start having success, another nation starts sending them money and recognition, and as their power starts to grow, so does their pride. And we go back to, what was the command that was given to all the kings that they were supposed to do? One of them was to write the laws, kind of remember who God is. And there was other commands, not multiply chariots, not to multiply wives and all that. And there's a reason why. What?
Rely on me.
That's right.
It was his message.
Your power's not in your armies. Your power's not in your horses. Your power's not in your chariots. And write that law to remember where this is all coming from. And yet, it's just not how it works out. And so, verse 3, as he comes into power, he kills all the people that killed his dad. Verse 4, and here's just kind of like this. Oh, he does have some morality. Joel, you can read verse 4 in yours if you don't mind.
However, he did not kill the children of the assassins, for he obeyed the command of the Lord as written by Moses in the book of the law. Parents must not be put to death for the sins of their children, nor children for the sins of their parents. Those deserving to die must be put to death for their own crimes.
I mean, it's just kind of, I'm going to murder these people, but I have some shred. I got a line I won't cross. It's kind of like he does right, but not wholeheartedly. So you see glimmers of morality and kind of some purpose here, but then also some kind of big holes. I'm going to honor this law, but I'm not going to honor. Hey, I'm pretty sure there's a commandment that came before that about thou shalt not murder. I'm not going to honor that one, but I'm going to make sure I won't kill your kids. Because the law says. That just kind of, it is a testimony to the period that we're in. Maybe it's a testimony to humankind as well. All right, so it's starting in verse 5. He gets the people of Judah together, and he's kind of organizing troops. He musters, verse 5, those 20 years old or more, and found that there were more than 300,000 men fit for military service, able to handle a spear and a shield. 300,000 people that he's got. He also hires, verse 6, 100,000 fighting men from Israel. How much does it cost him? 100 talents. So he's got 300,000. He hires 100,000 more. And where did he get them from? Now, so far in all of our King study, what has been the relationship between Judah and Israel? Usually they're going to war with each other, and God is using both of them to punish both of them. Is kind of where it's at. In fact, one of the kings that takes a hard left turn is because he allows his son to marry into that kingdom, and nothing good was coming from that kingdom. And so he goes and he's got 300,000, which that sounds like a pretty solid number. That's a lot of people that can fight, but I want 100,000 more, but he pays for them from Israel. Now, we're going to read some. Let's read 7 through 13. 7 through 13. Miss Laura, you're sick this morning. I ain't gonna. Bill, you want to do that this morning?
Sure.
2 Chronicles 25. Let's do 7 through 13.
But a man of God came to him, saying, O king, do not let the army of Israel go with you, for the Lord is not with Israel, not with any of the children of Ephraim. But if you go, be gone. Be strong in battle. Even so, God shall make you fall before the enemy. For God has power to help and to overthrow. Then Amaziah said to the man of God, But what shall we do about the 100 talents which I have given to the troops of Israel? And the man of God answered, The Lord is able to give you much more than this. So Amaziah discharged the troops that had come to him from Ephraim to go back home. Therefore their anger was greatly aroused against Judah, and they returned home in great anger. Then Amaziah strengthened himself, and leading his people, he went to the valley of Salt and killed 10,000 of the people of Seir. Also the children of Judah took captive 10,000 alive, brought them to the top of the rock, and cast them down from the top of the rock, so that they all were dashed in pieces. But as for the soldiers of the army which Amaziah had discharged, so that they would not go with him to battle, They raided the cities of Judah from Samaria to Beth Horon, killed 3,000 in them, and took much spoil.
There's a lot going on in here. You kind of get in the picture a little bit. So he's going to battle with Seir, obviously. He's got 300,000 troops, but he's not sure that's enough. So he goes to the northern kingdom, which nothing good. How many good kings are there in the north that we read out in Scripture? Goose egg, none. And it's up and down in the south. But in the north, no good kings come out of there. And he allies by going to these men of Ephraim and hires 100,000 of them to come fight. Then a man of God shows up and says what? Don't take them. Why not? Because God is not with Israel, nor with any of the people of Ephraim. Caleb, what version are you reading this morning? I want to hear, what's verse 8 say in yours?
But go, act, be strong for the battle. Why should you suppose that God will cast you down before the enemy?
All right, so that one asks more of a question. NIV says, even if you go and fight courageously in battle, God will overthrow. So even it's kind of like one says, go, even by the way yours read, go, but realize you're going to lose. Mine says, even if you go and fight courageously, what's going to happen? You're going to lose. And then the end of verse 8, for God has the power to help and God has the power to overthrow. So you can go fight with these guys if you want to, and you can fight as hard as you want to fight and be as brave as you want to be. And how's it going to end up? You're still going to lose. And what's true to mankind, what's his response to that? What about what? But I just spent 100. What about the 100 talents that I spent on these guys? Pretty powerful answer. What's the man of God say? You worry about money? That's your concern? You going to risk losing in battle? Look, 100 talents, I realize that's a lot of money, but God can give you a whole lot more. Do you see any of yourself in any of this? Don't do that. But I already invested this. I've got this much invested in this effort. I got this much invested in this relationship. I've got this much, and God can take, that ain't nothing. But we want to wrestle with all of that. And so he does, to his credit, he doesn't take them with him, which I think is kind of cool. How do those guys feel about it? But they still get paid, right? So it tells you a little bit about their character. It wasn't just about money for them. What do they just want to do what? They just want to fight and kill people. They're just, I don't know. They're Marty Nolan people, They just want to shoot something. Sorry. Yeah. They just want to fight. And so he says he marshals up his strength. They go. And it's kind of cruel how they kill the people, right? I mean, why capture them alive if you're just going to march them to the top of a cliff and do what? Toss them off. I mean, that's not fair play, right? I mean, it's one thing to kill a guy in battle. Don't take them alive just to go march them to that's just cruel and unusual punishment, right? All right. What about the troops that got dismissed? I'm about to say, and who? What region do they raid and pillage and do their thing? And I mean, we're not given applications. I'm just kind of driving here, but it's like you never should have hired them in the first place. You never should have joined yourself to the north in the first place. We've learned that lesson through multiple southern kings already. Why did you go looking for help there? In fact, and there's other times, why did you go looking for help in Damascus? You could have killed all of the Syrians. Why are you going looking for help anywhere else other than I got you? And as a consequence of him going and getting help, some of his own people suffer. His territory suffers by the heathens that he went and hired. Where are we going to go with that, Bill?
Right, Samaria would be in Israel, right?
Yes.
On my map, so is Beth Horon.
Okay.
It's over in Dan.
Where are you talking about there toward from Samaria to Beth Horon? It just says towns belonging to Judah. So it could be that maybe have they conquered that territory?
That's what I was thinking.
Judah has expanded there, and so basically, well, if you're going to do that, we're taking this back. I could see that. Okay, I could see that. And kill, it's not a small, how many people do they kill? That's not a small number of people. And take a great deal of plunder. Amaziah, how you feeling about him so far? Pretty good. I mean, he does right, but not all heartedly. And once he got power, he kind of takes a left turn. Well, it's going to get worse. Let's do 14 through 17. That'll be our next little chunk, 14 through 17. Cynthia, you want to read that?
Crazy names in this one.
Oh, yeah, there's a few. Amaziah and Edomites, I think, is your only big landmines.
When King Amaziah returned from slaughtering the Edomites, he brought with him idols taken from the people of Seir. He set them up as his own gods, bowed down in front of them, and offered sacrifices to them. This made the Lord very angry, and he sent a prophet to ask, "Why do you turn to gods who could not even save their own people from you?" But the king interrupted him and said, "Since when have I made you the king's counselor? Be quiet now before I have you killed." So the prophet stopped with this warning. "I know that God has determined to destroy you because you have done this and have refused to accept my counsel." After consulting with the advisors, King Amaziah of Judah sent this challenge to Israel's king Jehoash, the son of Jehoash, the grandson of Jehu, "Come and meet me in battle."
All right. I'm thinking even less of Amaziah now. How about you? We started out with you went and tried to ally and hire troops from the north, and this section ends with him challenging who in battle? The north. Do you get it? He went and hired some of them from the northern kingdom, and now by the end of this story, hey, let's fight, you and me. But there's even some more details in there. He's got back, and he has conquered people. He has prevailed in battle. And what does he do? What does he bring back? And is the words of the prophet just like genius, but obvious genius? So you just whooped people, captured 10,000 alive, marched them to the end of a cliff, and pushed them off, and watched all those people die, and thought, you know what? Their gods are pretty good. What does the prophet ask? Why are you taking the gods? Why are you consulting the God of people that can't even save their own people? Do you get the ludicrousy of that? To which the king doesn't even let him finish talking and says, what? He interrupts. You got a prophet of God and he interrupts him. What does he say? Yeah. Did I hire you as a king's advisor? Did I ask you for anything? You know? If I wanted anything out of you, I'd ask for it, kind of thing. Cuts him off. Pretty bold to cut off a prophet of God trying to help you out. Like, why are you doing this? Cuts him off. But he does get a little bit of a last word in there, does he not? What does he say as he wraps up his closing comments? Yeah. You know what? Okay. You know what? Okay, I'll stop talking. Just know you're toast. You're toast. Who does Amaziah consult? Verse 17. Not the Lord. Who does he consult? 17. Amaziah, king of Judah, consulted my version says his advisors. Has it ever gone well so far when people go consult their advisors? Remember Jeroboam and Rehoboam and all that stuff, and like, I'm not going to listen to this. I'm going to go get my guys. And it's just not going well. So he consults his advisors and he goes and says, you know what? Let's go pick a fight with the north. You just got told by a guy you're going to die. And he leaves there in perfect prophetic response. Let me go pick a fight with somebody.
If anything, it says just because someone has a high position, just because someone has a lot of wealth, riches, just because doesn't make sense.
Absolutely. It doesn't mean God's with them. Success does not guarantee that God's pleased. In fact, sometimes the pattern of the Old Testament is that God would allow kingdoms to grow in order to use them for his purposes, but it's almost like the growing of them led to their demise. I'm going to build you up just so I can, for my glory. So he goes and picks a fight. Now here's kind of like, there's a little bit of humor here. All right. So he tries to hire help from the north, and he ends by wanting to pick a fight with the people of the north. Mr. Jason, will you read 18 and 19 in what version are you reading, just out of curiosity? All right, so that'll be, all right, let's 18 and 19. So he goes and he wants to pick a fight with the north, and here's what happens.
Joash, the king of Israel, sent to the Amaziah, king of Judah, saying, the thorn bush, which was in Lebanon, sent to the cedar, which was in Lebanon, saying, give your daughter to my son in marriage. But they passed by the wild beast that was in Lebanon and trampled the thorn bush. He said, behold, you have defeated Edom, and your heart has become proud and boasting. Now stay at home, for why should you provoke trouble so that you, even you, would fall and Judah with you?
All right, some of that, you have a thorn bush and a cedar. He's making a comparison, right? Some of your version might have a thistle. You got a thistle in Lebanon and a cedar in Lebanon. Tell me what the comparison is. Yeah. You got a splinter and a tree, right? And he says, and Jehoash is the one that provoked, Amaziah is the one that provokes. He sends it to Joash, says, hey, let's fight each other. And the king of Israel says, there was one time a splinter challenged a cedar. Why do this? And he even calls him out on verse 19. Okay, so you beat Edom and you're feeling good about yourself. All right? You won a small battle and you're feeling your oats here. You're proud and boastful, arrogant and proud. Stay at home. Why ask for trouble and cause your own downfall? And that, you actually got to give the Israelite king a little bit of credit here, right? Because he basically dude, come on. Huh? He's trying to I'm trying to spare you. It's kind of like me provoking Joel, like I like to do. And Joel going, dude, just stay over there, right? You know what I mean? Just stop. That's what you want to say, right? Just stop. And that's what he says, dude. So it'd be like, all right, I beat Tyler, which I'm getting to the point I can't even hardly do that anymore. But, so I'm feeling good. Now I'm ready to step to Joel. And Joel's like, dude, come on. Just stay over there. Stay home. Why battle? You want to guess what he does? 20, we'll just wrap this up. Amaziah, however, would not listen, for God so worked that he might deliver them into the hands of Joash, because they sought the gods of Edom. Verse 22, Judah was routed by Israel. And when the northern king comes, verse 24, he takes all the gold and silver and articles that were found in the temple of God. So he goes to battle anyway, but it fulfills the prophecy that all right, you don't want to listen to God? Fine, you're going to lose. And he goes right off and goes to his own demise. And not only that, but Judah does suffer. The temple gets raided. His palace gets raided. And at the end, they don't kill him in the battle, but it says in verse 27, from the time that Amaziah turned away from following the Lord, they conspired against him in Jerusalem. He fled to Lachish, and they sent men after him to Lachish and killed him there. Remember who he killed? To start, when he finally got to feeling himself, who did he kill? The officials who killed his dad. Well, guess what happens? It just cycled. You put to death the son of a respected and godly man. All right? You put to death the people that put your father. And so it's the cycle. And so now those same people, when he gets brought low, they go and they finish him off. He was brought back by horse, was buried with his ancestors in the city of Judah. But what's not mentioned about where he was buried? He gets brought back to the city, but what's not mentioned? He's not, it is not even mentioned here. We'll bury you in the city, but not in the tomb. That's kind of all we have time. We'll pick up Uzziah next time, but just real quick before we close, I know we're kind of getting like beating it's a pattern. And you could say, well, that's just a monotonous pattern. Why are we studying this over and over? Why do we study patterns over and over? What value do we get from learning the same lesson over and over? Why give us the same lesson over and over?
So it's in our mind that we don't follow history.
How many patterns in your life do you follow over and over and over? God, Dan, why are we, okay, we got the lesson. Kings are going to do bad and bad things happen when you don't listen to God. Why do we need to keep studying that? What happens in your life when you stop following God? What happens when you kind of get to a place of success and kind of feeling yourself? You better be careful. Make sure you're honoring God in all of that. All right, we will end there with Amaziah and pick up with Uzziah next Sunday. Unless anybody else, closing thoughts? I want to cut you off.
Just the one thing, pride goeth before destruction and a haughty spirit before.
And man, that's the perfect summation of what we're seeing. The ones that stay humble and recognize it's all God, they soar like the eagles and prosperity abounds in Judah and Jerusalem. And the ones that think it's them and by their own power fall mightily over and over and over again. Perfect. All right, we'll end there. If you got a chance, if you're getting up and you're milling around, don't forget about the cards that are up here.